Go ahead. Just try to provoke me.
Oh, I just got up, man.
Oh, come on. Bust your daddy's chops.
Fine.
United Studios presents the Procreative Podcast with MARZ.
Welcome to the Procreative Podcast. This is MARZ. Okay, today I'm interviewing my good friend Ben Tyson. Ben was my first parent friend that I had met when I moved out here to Colorado about 3 years ago. Ben is a serial entrepreneur on various companies in the tech space. He's also worked in virtual reality, in woodworking, and he's also a great piano player too. And I want to go ahead and share this story because it's really one of the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. So this was 2015. I had just come to Colorado. I'd really been here for maybe not even a week yet, and I was pretty desperately looking for jobs. I had a 6-week-old baby. I was kind of out here on a leap of faith. I was like, we're going to move all out here and set up this whole life. And anyway, I'm sitting there with my resume and my computer, coffee, just looking for jobs. And this guy comes up to me, to my table, and he says, "Are you Justin?" And I'm thinking, I don't know anybody in this state. Who the hell are you? And he says, "Are you here for the job interview?" And now my alarm system is going off even more. I'm starting to think, did he hack my computer screen? Has he been spying on me? Like, how does this guy know that I'm looking for a job? So he's there to meet someone named Justin at the exact same time that I was there looking for jobs. Now, when this happened, I was absolutely certain that I was caught up in some sort of money laundering scheme, because when I finally got on the phone with the person who was contracting Ben's team, they said they were going to wire me money every month internationally from Vancouver. And I'm thinking, there is no way that this is real. But I ended up looking him up. And the awesome thing about the story is that Ben and I stayed in touch. We went on to form DenVR Virtual Reality Collective here in Denver, which is a artist collective for people who make VR content, experiences and apps and all kinds of things. So it was just really the most serendipitous point of meeting anyone that I think I've ever had, where we were both kind of looking for this missing link at the same time. So I was really stoked to have him on the show, because one of the first things that I learned about Ben is that he is one of the most ambitious but also caring and loving people. And he's an amazing dad. And Ben really has a work ethic that is unmatched. And he has really honed his ability to both kind of share that time with his kids and his partner, and also, run several businesses at once. And I think one of the most interesting points that Ben and I covered was something that really was close to us while we worked for the same company for a number of years, is because we were entrepreneurs, because we were new to it, we were young. How do you balance the long-term vision of, your stability and being able to bring in money and taking paid jobs that keep you sustained with the stuff that fuels your spirit and your creativity, whether it's your album or your painting, and you want to be able to do it all, but at the end of the day, there's just not enough energy, not enough time. And when there is, it's usually pulling away from other people and other things that need it also. I'm here with my friend Ben Tyson. Ben, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Ben, you're my first dad friend here in Denver when I moved here 3 years ago. And you are a really interesting entrepreneur, and I've only pretty recently gotten to work with you on some cool creative projects. So before we kind of take the tour, what are you working on now?
Well, I've got several projects in the works right now. The The new one is a company called LumenGrave, and it's a laser engraving studio and creative workshop. And we basically, primarily using wood, engrave lots of artwork and products and, try to push the boundaries of that industry a little bit.
Cool.
I have been working in the VR space for about 3 years, as you know, with DenVR. And the most recent thing we did there was helped facilitate the VR pavilion at the Denver International Film Fest, which was intense, but amazing. And then, as always, I have my paws involved in a huge variety of tech startups and concepts. And
so what is this DenVR? Tell us about DenVR.
yeah, so DenVR is really just a group of creative people. It's like an art collective. And the goal is, can we take this amazing technology and do things with it that, either haven't been done yet, or bring them to people who otherwise might not necessarily get the chance to use this technology, whether that's students or artists or people in the corporate world who live in a very boxy, lifestyle, and just take virtual reality and augmented reality and do amazing things with them.
DenVR is definitely one of the coolest projects I've gotten to work with. I'm asking like I don't know, but this is a project Ben and I helped found, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was a little over 2 years ago. I think we got our first system in late September 2 years ago.
Got our first gig
with
the band. Kind of was like a band.
Yeah, that was so much fun, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't know what we were doing, but it worked. It came to life.
Which is kind of like being a dad, wouldn't you say?
So true.
What's your dad's situation?
Well, my dad's situation is I've got 3 awesome children. I've got Lily, who's 10, 4th grader, and then Liam, he's 6, he's a 1st grader, and then Elodie is 2, and she's just a no grader. Lily and Liam, their mom and I split several years ago, and she lives in Kansas, so there's that situation, which finally is relatively amiable after lots of contentious years. And Elodie's mother, Morgan, is my insanely awesome fiance, who's the coolest chick I've ever met.
Morgan is so cool.
She's rad. She makes me better basically in every way possible.
So what's that like, having a mom of your kids in another state? How do you manage that?
Well, that I manage it by trying to focus really hard on what's best for Lily and Liam. And it's not always easy to kind of put aside the tension between Anna and myself. But I'd say, I'm lucky in the fact that I have the kids full time with me. And we arranged it so that they spend all breaks, basically when they're not in school, whether it's a holiday break or a summer break, with their mother in Kansas. And I'm happy for them to spend time with their mom. I definitely don't want to keep them from her. And we have a pretty decent relationship now. But it's tough. Even like right now, they're gone over Thanksgiving break. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think about them continually. But
did you guys ever live in the same state together?
Yeah, for the first several years after we split, we lived only a couple miles from each other. And the way that worked out was it was more or less a 50-50 split with, who had the kids and who was taking care of the kids and providing for the kids. And, I've talked with you in the past a little bit about this, but when Anna moved and I had the kids stay with me full time, it felt like everything just got easier, which seems counterintuitive because there's half of the time that you didn't have to worry about the kids. But really what it did was it shifted it so my routine and my schedule with them became more uninterrupted. And when it was a 50-50 split, if there was a day or two, say Anna called me, hey, I can't take the kids Thursday or Friday, it really threw me for a loop. Mm-hmm. But when I had them full time, that never really happened. So I didn't have to struggle with this, the scheduling snafu of what would happen if their mom didn't take them for a couple days. And without that stress, everything just got easier. And I realized, this was the other thing, I just realized that I just liked being around them full time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, that's not always the situation. It's, I'd say it's probably more rare that the spouse lives out of state than in state. Mm-hmm. So.
How does that feel when they're away? Are you able to keep in touch as much as you'd like to? I mean, how long?
Probably not as much as I'd like to. I'd like to, FaceTime them twice a day. Mm-hmm. But I also, I actually used to do that. And then I realized that maybe I was invading some of Anna's space with them. And so now I have a little bit more of a system where every 3 or 4 days that I don't have them, I get them on the phone or we FaceTime and we catch up and chat. But, so they know I'm thinking about them. And I also like to write them letters and postcards and send them little gift boxes and stuff like that. Just fun stuff that's not talking on the phone, but still makes them know that I'm thinking about them. And yeah.
So are you able to organize your, if you have work coming up or you have a project that you want to work on, do you kind of build your time around when you'll have them?
Yeah. So for me personally, that is the zinger question. That's the one that has been the toughest to figure out as a pretty active, entrepreneur, where my work schedule is every day is different. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say there's no day I wake up and it's like, ooh, this is going to be like yesterday. It just doesn't happen with me. So with that in mind, thinking about how I balance that with the kids has been a huge struggle. And maybe it's just getting a little older. Not that I don't feel old, but I'm getting older, as people do. Maybe it's getting a little wiser, but in the last couple of years, I've really come back to earth a little bit. And at the end of the day, 6 o'clock, thereabouts, I really make a concerted effort to shut everything down work-wise and just go focus on the kids, focus on Morgan. I'm still available to shoot some emails out, or sometimes maybe I'll be watching a movie and I'll get my computer up and I'll keep working on stuff. But I used to not do that. I used to roll till 2, 3 a.m. every night, just pushing the boundaries. Like I couldn't wait to get the kids down so I could have my spare time to and I just felt like, actually Lily, my oldest, she called me out on it once. Mm-hmm. And she didn't call me out in a mean way, but she threw down the hammer. Something like, oh, work is more important than us. I get it. Okay. And she said it like that.
That stings.
Big time.
Yeah.
Coming from her, because I still think of her as like a 3-year-old.
Right.
She's like this completely autonomous, independent, amazing 10-year-old.
Who's realizing things.
Oh, yeah.
About you.
She watches me and she knows. She knows where my focus is. Even when I'm reading them a bedtime story and I'm distracted, she knows.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
She pull you back in?
She pulls me back in.
Yeah.
She has this magnetic tug that can just bring me back to reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually come up against that because it's not immediately obvious, and you might think while you're working late that you're doing it for them because you want to give them a better life and kind of set things up in a way that's where there's more security or predictability for them and more money coming in, but it's your time
You nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 100%. And honestly, several years ago when my mindset was a little different and it was work, that was how I was justifying it. I wasn't just trying to be an asshole and ignore my kids. I was doing it because in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to provide for them, right? And I'm going to make this amazing life for them. But ultimately, you realize that the only thing that they really care about is your time. That's it. They don't care about how big the house is or what you drive or, as long as they're fed, as long as their basic needs are met, they don't care. They just want me around, focused on them. That's all they want.
I think that you were an important first parent friend for me because my conception of what a dad was or what a parent was more defined by who my parents were at that point. And my dad was in real estate and my mom just kind of worked odd cleaning jobs and she was a stay-at-home mom. And my mind hadn't been opened yet as to working in the creative fields or working in art or working in entrepreneurship or being your own boss. And I feel like I just didn't have a lot of trust or really even see it as an option. And I think when I saw you, it was intriguing because, it's that thing you said, every day is different. And there's something appealing about that, especially as a young parent. You haven't fully settled down yet. You kind of have a foot in both worlds, it feels like. So it's been really interesting to watch you, and we worked together for a number of years, and I think that I hope that that's what this show, I hope it will reach that person who is at that moment, who's thinking about taking a leap, or they've already taken a leap and they're kind of struggling along the way. What are some things that you kind of look back on, of particularly in that tension space of, I want to put all my time into this creative thing that's not bringing in any money, but I know I have an obligation to work for this more paying gig?
Right. I have a lot of thoughts about this. And to be really transparent and take down some of these barriers, I feel that my approach to work probably contributed more to my first marriage not working than anything else. Personality differences, things like that. I mean, those were big, but at the same time, I was a workaholic. Now, I was working on projects that were creative in nature. So, it was still exciting and fun, but I just never stopped. And when that marriage went south, that's when I really got the first punch in the face. Hey, you really need to think about time management better. And, with the kids, just prioritizing them rather than what I'm doing. And then also adding this layer that, Lily and Liam, especially the older ones, they watch what I'm doing every day. And they are starting to show signs of immense creative talent, whether it's in the music or the art or the construction or the building things. And I go to their school sometimes and I'm surrounded by, no offense here if any of you people are watching or listening, but they're pretty boring, right? There's a bunch of parents that I feel like they're just kind of going through the motions and not exercising their creative spirit. And to me, as a human, that's so important that I would never sacrifice that. But finding the balance between the kids and, your own creative passions and financial obligations, it's a tricky tightrope to walk. Mm-hmm. But it's exciting at the same time. And I hope I'm doing it well. I mean, I think I have pretty awesome, talented kids. And
yeah, my last guest, Adam, talked about bringing your kids into the fold of whatever you're working on as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then a previous guest before that, my friend Aaron Roberts, had talked about how it feels like these two worlds are entirely separate and you often don't get to overlap them. She's a musician. So what are the opportunities to blend those two?
I take advantage of that all the time. I love to bring the kids to the shop to watch what I'm doing there. They oftentimes are curious when I'm working on the computer with the programming. Lily, I've taught her, some basics of code. She's not super into it, but she's fascinated because I'm into it. Mm-hmm. With the music and art, that's a no-brainer for me. In fact, Lily is going to be such a better piano player than I am.
That's so cool.
She's rad. Like, she's in the talent show coming up for actually, both Liam and Lily are playing the piano for their talent show at school. Mm-hmm. But Lily's track that she's playing is off the chains. I can't wait to show you, actually. I'll make a video. But yeah, a little, bragging there. But.
Nothing wrong with a little. It's different when you're self-promoting your kids.
Right?
Nobody likes to, self-promotion, but...
Yeah.
Where else did I want to go?
I have, there's definitely been cases when I'm working on jobs where the people I'm working with or for palpably think that my demand to leave at a certain time to be home when the kids get home from school, which is something I really try to make happen. Not 5 o'clock. I try to be home at 3:45 when they get home. They really don't agree with that, and it's pretty contentious. And that just makes me think that, this is one of the reasons that I've always been in business for myself, to make those standards. I don't think an extra hour working in any environment is more important than being with your kids as much as you can. I know it's not always possible. I know a lot of people don't have jobs that allow that. But if your job even remotely comes close to allowing that, I would suggest to everybody to take advantage of that.
So what kind of steps have you taken to floss your mental health and kind of keep up yourself? You have a routine with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I always try to stay pretty physically active and healthy in that regard. I'm not like a super athlete, but I try to eat right and take care of my body. But as far as mental health, I'd say the thing that I do the most in that regard is I read copious amounts of books. I probably spend 2 full hours a day reading. And that's something that I don't think I could possibly give up. And you've known me long enough to know that, I always have like 3 or 4 books on me. And I just think it keeps your brain sharp and it keeps your vocabulary sharp. And I think it, it's just a super healthy exercise to do. And I encourage everybody to do that.
Something you said a minute ago about your first marriage being heavily influenced by how much you were working, that actually really resonated with me, because I feel like there is a certain type of partner, especially when there's a kid involved, that really can be accepting of, choosing a life that is pretty non-traditional in that way. So I guess I'm kind of wondering, how did you feel that out with Morgan, your partner now?
Well, that's a good question. When Morgan and I first started dating, I let her know right away that particular, I don't know if I would label it as a vice, but habit maybe, is I work a lot. And it's hard for me to shut off my work brain because my work is also like a creative endeavor too. And, she didn't seem to mind, but what happened was just being with her made me want to kind of shut everything else down and focus on her a lot. And that translated to the kids as well. So it was a very organic process of where I was just compelled to not overdo it and make the same mistakes I had the first time around, I would say. So she's been super supportive of all of my work all the time, which helps.
Does she have expectations about, how you'll spend your time? Or maybe even more to the point, does she have expectations around that balance that you strike of making money versus the long-term plays that could make money in the future?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely has her opinions, but she doesn't have expectations. She's told me point blank, like, as long as we're together with the kids, it doesn't matter how much money we have, it doesn't matter where we live. Like she's just said it doesn't matter, right? So don't carry that burden, because I do carry that burden. As far as time, again, I wouldn't say that she puts expectations on me, but I know what she prefers, and she prefers me to have a very healthy balance between being at home, turned off from everything, and then working on my projects. But she also knows there's sometimes when I have to go 2 or 3 days where I might as well be on another planet. And I know you know what that's like, Justin, because when you have events coming up or you have a big project, it's just everything goes into that, and there's no way around it. But there's no stress from her about it.
That's really cool. And how do you give on the other side of that so she's able to have that?
Well, I'm really supportive of her work, and
what does she do?
Yeah, so she's a professional makeup artist and hairstylist, and she works weddings, fashion shoots, photo shoots. She's done a lot of celebrities. But on the side, she runs this incredible jewelry, kind of handcrafted jewelry making called Wood and Wire, which is just mind-blowing. She makes several pieces a day that are just incredible. And so those are her two main things.
And do you guys split do you pay for most of the...
Yeah, so... and this came from experience from, my first marriage. But when Morgan and I really started getting serious, we just combined our bank accounts, and we both said, be thoughtful of purchases, and, consider the household. So when she needs supplies, she just buys them. Same with me. And honestly, we haven't always had a ton of money. I mean, I've been pretty broke a lot, but other times I've been doing pretty well. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. It goes up and down a lot. And we've never really had any problems in that regard. I think what it comes down to is trust. I trust her to make good financial decisions.
Mm-hmm. Was that from not doing that in your first relationship?
Well, it came from, I did do it. I did do it the first relationship, but there are a lot of variables in this statement, but there wasn't a tremendous amount of either trust or respect in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, you must have a pretty thick skin at this point. You have kids, and you're the mom of a couple of your kids lives out of state, and you've chosen one of the most non-traditional career paths that I know, and I'm sure that there's heat coming in all sides at any given point. And so I just want to say, it's pretty inspiring to me.
Thanks.
And really glad that you were able to come on the show. And I guess I want to end on, you've been doing this definitely longer than I have. Is there anything that you'd speak back to about, young Ben with Lily, who was wanting to be an entrepreneur, an artist, or something that could have put you on the fast track to current Ben?
Looking back, there's a lot of things I'd do differently for sure. But I think the number one thing is, and a really, close friend of mine told me this years ago, almost a decade ago. It was right before Lily was born, actually. And I was voicing my concerns about, man, like now that I'm going to have this baby and, all these things I was going to do and all these places I was going to go and et cetera. It's like, I'm not going to be able to do them now. And he said, no. Not only will you still be able to do them, but after you do them, which you will, they're going to be even more meaningful. And that just, man, I really let that sink in for a while. And I'm like, whoa, that's so true. Like, I'm not doing any of this for myself anymore. I mean, I am in some ways. Personal fulfillment's important. But what I'm really doing is I'm leaving behind something that my kids can be proud of that's not necessarily in the form of just financial success. And that's what drives me.
I feel that too. And there's plenty of reasons why, I should have given up with music production or, performing. And I would like my daughter to see that I chose not to, because I don't want her to see me as a parent that gave up everything for her. And I hope that when she has, a child also, that she will keep that, fire in her alive. And of course, I don't mean, when I say giving up, I mean, we give everything up for them.
Right.
But in terms of, what gives you value and meaning in life, as far as your personal fulfillment, I want her to have her own sense, her own internal compass about that. And I hope that the financial instability and instability in other ways is trumped by some of this deeper meaning.
I completely agree. There's been several times when people have approached me and sat me down and like, Ben, you have the weapons to just make so much money. And what you could do is just, dive in headfirst for 2-3 years and you would be set. Why don't you just do that? And to be honest, like sometimes I'm not sure why I don't do that.
I'm sitting here smiling because this resonates with every fiber.
They're just like, being. And I take it as a compliment. I'm like, well, thanks. I'm glad you appreciate my talents. And I'll consider it and I think about it and I think about it and I think about it. And then I just, I can't do it. Like, I don't know if it's, I'm just super unemployable or, which I don't think is the case. But at the end of the day, it's that I just don't really care about this, the end of the rainbow that they foresee when they're talking to me about this or they're offering me this. That's not the end of the rainbow for me. Sometimes you go hiking up in the mountains and you're just walking along and having a great time. And then you just hear people come thumping by and you turn and they're just, and this is a day hike, right? It's a day hike. And they're decked out in $500 worth of, REI and North Face gear. And they're just like blazing by you walking. And they're like, oh, we're going to get to the lake in 2 hours, which is a record time. And, and it's going to take me like 6 hours to get to the lake. And I could care less because I don't care about the lake. The lake is going to be nice when I get there and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. But to me, the hike is why I'm doing the hike. It's the hike, right? It's the trees, it's the nature, it's the sky, it's the relaxation. That's what's important to me. So when I'm thinking about the work I'm doing now versus what I could be doing, which would extremely expedite this, this end of the rainbow type scenario, I'm just way more into the hike. I don't want to say, the journey is the important part, not the destination, because that's so cliche. But that's basically what I'm saying, right? To me, this struggle is fun. Like, it's exciting. It's challenging. It's what I want.
There's something about just doing it, even aside from the success or potential success, that feels good. Like, there's something about the process of struggling with songwriting and growing in it, even though I have, some ideas of how to make money with it, but it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
And particularly with music, we have such a kind of monetization look at it, especially if it's your career. You put work into it and then you sell it as a commodity. But I think that I've really been turned on to lately that it is a communicative and community tool that also has the potential to be a commodity, but that's not the first and foremost way to look at it.
Right. And, you know this, Justin, because we've spent so many years working together on a variety of projects, some of which weren't super creative projects. They were tech undertakings. And what you just described is the way I've always approached even like business startups, which is maybe one of the reasons a lot of them have failed, but they failed only in the sense of other people's definition of failure, where we have an idea for something that legitimately like improves people's lives, even if it's, kind of arbitrary. And we build the idea, and what we know is this has the potential to make money, but it's not the first thing on our mind. Mm-hmm. And every business success book says, if that's not the first thing on your mind, don't do it. Mm-hmm. But I'm just so not motivated by that, that I build to build, right? That's why I don't build to make money. I hope that making money comes from it, but I'm not super stressed about it.
Right.
I just, what happened. And I think that's the same way that you just described your music, which is I'm going to make amazing music. It's going to impact people's lives, and it's going to be good enough that it could be like commoditized and it could provide financially. But that's not why I'm writing music.
Right. And it's also, I found that having a community and a somewhere to kind of insert yourself with friends and to show yourself and reveal, vulnerable parts about yourself. For me, that's art. And I think that everybody needs that channel. And I think a lot of adults lose that. Not only friendship, but a place to reveal themselves outside of work. Right. And that's a really only increasingly more important part of becoming a parent, I think, is that it is so easy to isolate and to get up in your head about your situation, and just being around people that's the secret, I think.
That's spot on. I mean, I think of everything I've done in my life, being a parent is the most fulfilling, without a doubt. It's the thing I'm the most proud of, and what I want to, when people think of me, I want them to think of me as a parent first, before anything else.
Right, I do. And that always pops up for me when I think of you.
Oh man, Ben. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ben, the badass dad. Well, it's been awesome talking to you, Ben. And
same.
Where can we find do you have anything out with the wood shop? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's just lumengrave.com. and that's LUMENGRAVE. And then DenVR.io is our VR collective, so join. And then, that's about it.
The Procreative Podcast was produced by me, MARZ, at Moon Magnet Studios in Denver, Colorado. It was mastered by Reed Fox, and our music was provided by Kevin Netz. You can find more at moonmagnetmusic.com.